Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see you here in person, a few folks that are here with us. And we hope many people at home, if you're joining us from home, we invite you to sing along with us and to enjoy your Shabbat morning in the safety of your home. We're going to begin on page 99. We use Sidur Lev Shalem, available as a download at headenver.org. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai vekayam. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai vekayam. Modeh ani lefanecha. Modeh ani lefanecha. Moda'ani lefanecha melech chai vekayam. Moda'ani lefanecha melech chai vekayam. Moda'ani lefanecha. Moda'ani lefanecha. Moda'ani lefanecha melech chai vekayam. Moda'ani lefanecha melech chai vekayam. That felt good to say, Modeh ani lefanecha. I give thanks before you, God, who returned my soul breath to me in compassion. I think in the moment that we're living in, we can't take for granted the return of breath, of soul, of life with each day, and what it affords us, and what it would mean to put that at risk, which is at the heart of this week's Parsha. The efforts that we take to safeguard one another and ourselves. We'll get to that, but let's continue in a posture and attitude of recognition and gratitude for life and its beauty. Page 134, we say, Magadlu, how great are your thoughts, this beautiful world that we live in. Page 134, it's about 6 or 7 lines down. Magadlu Masechaya Me'od amku machshevotecha. Hallelujah, hallelujah. ma gadlu Maasechaya you and Micah Ku Makshevotecha Hallelujah Hallelujah Magadlu Maasechaya Meodam ku Makshevotecha Magadlu Maasechaya Meodam ku Makshevotecha. I was speaking earlier with someone about a fundamental question. How is it that we can restore a sense of trust and mutual respect with other human beings when the choices that we're making or that different people are making have real consequences for how we're living, all of us, as a outgrowth of this pandemic? The prayer says, the psalmist says, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, how happy are those who sit in your house, Od Ya'ulu Hasela, they will yet sing your praises. I think that the way that one of the ways is that we need to encounter one another. Right? The way that we create trust and respect is by the responsibility that's evoked with an encounter with another human being. And where in our society can we do that? This may be one of those few places, in houses of worship, where we gather together with the intention of being an ethical community, a sacred community, and the practice of doing that. I pray that we find our way to Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, that happy are those who actually can dwell together with all of the attending responsibilities of that come with that gathering. So I think it's great, and we invite people to be at home right now, because that's a safe place to be, as we try to do safely here too. But I pray that we can sit in shul together and be that sacred community. Let's sing together page 136. Hannah and Micah, would you lead us?
Ashrei,
Ashrei,
Yoshvei,
Yoshvei Veitecha, Odeh Hallelujah, Odeh Hallelujah. Ashrei, Yoshvei Veitecha, Odeh Hallelujah, Odeh Hallelujah. Ashrei, Yoshvei Veitecha, Odeh Hallelujah, Odeh Hallelujah. Ashrei, Yoshvei Veitecha.
kol melachav, hallelu kol tzevav, hallelu shemesh ve'yareach, hallelu kol kochavei or, hallelu shemei hashamayim ha'mayim asher me'amayim. Yehu tziva v'nivra'u v'yam iten le'al le'olam chok natan v'lo yavor.
Hallelu et Shem Adonai Yehu tziva v'nivra'u v'yam iten le'al le'olam chok natan v'lo yavor. Page 141. Micah, would you read this?
Okay.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, 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 el bekocho, hallelujah, birki auzo, hallelujah, vigvurotav, hallelujah, kerov gudlo, hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar, hallelujah, benevel vechinor, hallelujah, betofu machol, hallelujah, beminim ve'ugav, hallelujah, 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 betzil tzlei shama, hallelujah, betzil tzlei shua, kol hanshama tehalel ya, kol hanshama tehalel ya, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
We'll turn now to page 147, and Micah will lead us in the beginning of Shachri, page 147.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo. Befi yisharim titalahal, uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach, ulilshon chasidim titromam, uvkerev kedoshim titkadash, uvmakalot revevot amcha beit Yisrael. Every night bar shemcha malkeinu b'chol dor. להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, להלל ולקלס, על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות, דוד בן ישי, עבדך משיחך, ישתבח שמך ליד מלכנו, על המלך הגדול והקדוש, בשמיים ובארץ, ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, על ההודאות האדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרך, מלך מלכי העולמים. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא יברכרתי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב במהרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונכד.
אפס בלתך גואלנו למות המשיח, ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים, אל אדון הכל המעשים, ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה, גדלו וטובו מלא עולם, דעת ותבונה סובב עמותו, עמידה אל חיות הקודש, נר בכבוד על המרכבה, זכות ומישור לפני כיסו, חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו, טובים לעורר שברא אלוהינו, יצרם בדעת בבינה ובהשכל, כוח וגבורה נתן בר, להיות משלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ופיקים נוגה, נעזיבם בכל העולם, שמחים
בצאתם בששים בבואם, עושים באימה רצון קונם, ובכוונונים לשמור צולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו. קרא לשמש ויזרחו, ראה והתקין צורת הבנה, שבח נונים לו, כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ויופנים וחיות הקודש. ינאי ינאי ינאי
Continue quietly in 152. ליל אשר שבעת כל המעשים ביום השביעי תלה וישב תפרח מושיענו על שבח מעשה ידיך ועל מרעור שעשית יפרוך הסלע. תפרח צורינו מלכים וגואלינו בורא קדושים שבת שמקום Page 153. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים בהמה וביראה רצון קונם, וכולם פותחים לפיהם בקדושה וטהרה, בשירה וזמרה ומברכים משבחים ופרים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים
את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא הקדוש הוא.
וכולם מקבלים עליהם ומלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש לעצמם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ובנימה קדושה, כולם כחרונים ואומרים בהירה
קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלך הארץ כבודו.
ואופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. Page 154 speaks of love and Torah. Law as an expression of God's love, and this is a key difference between modern law and Jewish religious ethics and law, in which our sense of society is one built on obligation rather than on individual rights. And that the expression of that is an act of love. The recognition of other human beings as created in the image of God should evoke love and compassion for others. And so it is out of this love that we form sacred community, an ethical community. We invoke that love as we prepare to recite the Shema, bringing together the four corners of our talit, as we bring together the four corners of the earth in that oneness. Page 154, Hannah, would you lead us? Thank you.
Ahava,
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 Ahava Rabba,
Ahava Rabba, Ahavtanu
Ahava.
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 Ahava Rabba.
Ahava Rabba.
Baruch
Baruch
Atah
Atah
Adonai Habocher
Be'amon Yisrael
Be'ahava.
Shema
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad אהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לעיניך ודיברת בם בשבתך ביתך ובלכתך בדרך וכשוכבך ופקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בעיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך והיה תשמעו מצותי אשר אנוכי מצווך
Adonai Elohim
ודור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים וחיסון נכון ומוחתו ואמונתו ליד קיימת ליד קיימת
157.
Emet Shatahu Adonai Eloheinu Belohei Avotenu Malkeinu Melech Avotenu Golenu Gol Avotenu Yotrenu Tzor Yeshuatenu Podenu Matzalenu Melam Shemecha Elohim Zulatecha Shat Avotenu Atahu Ma'olah.
Continue quietly. We'll join together on 158 at the arrows.
Tehilot le'el elyon, Baruch hu mevorach. Moshe Miriam, u'bnei Yisrael, lechanu shira, besimcha rabba. Ve'amru chulam micha mocha ba'elim Adonai micha mocha Shira Chadasha Shibchu Geulim Leshimcha Svatayam Yachad Kulam Hodu V'Himlechu V'Yameru Adonai Eloh Le'olam Va'ed Yanai 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 Yisrael, Uftechinu Mecha, Yuda Yisrael, Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot, Shemo Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah.
Now for the Amidah on page 159. The Amidah evokes on Shabbat the verses from the book of Exodus that say that the Shabbat is a sign, an oath between God and the Jewish people. Other things that are referred to as oath in our tradition are the mezuzah, the tefillin. There's one more. Shabbat, and the covenant itself that we have with God. Also, of course, Brit Milah. So how is Shabbat the covenant, part of a sign of our covenant with God? It's because when we celebrate Shabbat as a community, we affirm our commitment to be that sacred, beloved community of responsibility in Torah. And so in a community that davens together, stays together, a community that celebrates Shabbat together is a sacred community that cares for one another. With that kavanah in mind, Micah, would you lead us in the Nusach, and then at the Dor Vador, Chana, would you pick it up? Thank you. Page 159.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh Hakol v'Zorcher Chasdei Avot ומביא גואל ביניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד ומשיח ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים תומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו וישנה עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לך חיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום כך כתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ צבאותו אז בכל רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מנסים לעומת סרפים לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך אדוני ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לה מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצח היא ועינינו תראינה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך על ידי דוד משיח צדקך ימלוך אדוני לעולם וחי את ציון דור ודור הללויה
לדור ודור נגיד גדלך לנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש לדור ודור נגיד גדלך
ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה
Baruch atah
Shalom.
Shalom bimrama. Yase shalom. Oh, say shalom. Shalom bimrama. Yase shalom. Yase shalom. Shalom aleinu. Ve'yakol Yisrael. Ve'imeru amen. Oh, say shalom.
Shalom bimroma. Yase shalom. Oh, say shalom. Shalom bimroma. Yase shalom.
Yase shalom. Shalom aleinu.
Ve'yakol Yisrael.
Ve'imeru amen. Oh, say shalom. Shalom bimromav. Yase shalom.
Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yase shalom.
Page 167.
Yishkal Vayikra Rabba. Ve'almat v'rakirte ve'amlich malchute. B'chayachonu mechon v'chedachol be'Yisrael. V'agalau v'izmakari ve'imeru.
Amen.
Yesh Rabba mevorach. Le'olam u'amei almaya. Yitbarach v'shabach v'yitbar v'shomam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudasha le'elam min kol berchacha v'shirata shchata v'nechmata damran balma v'imeru
Amen.
titkabel soton v'oton dechol Yisrael kodam v'hon di v'shma v'imeru
Amen.
Yehi shlam rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'chol Yisrael v'imeru
Amen.
Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru. Amen.
Yashikoah. You can have a seat. As has become our custom during these times of limited attendance, we are doing a Torah study instead of a Torah reading here. Though we have a Torah study, there is Torah reading if you join our other stream in the traditional service, if you'd like to hear Torah reading. So let's begin our Torah study with a bracha to sanctify that study with the words La'asok b'divrei Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen. All right. And those of you at home, I don't have this posted, but we're looking at the Parsha, Parsha Ki Tetzei, right at the beginning, chapter 22 of Deuteronomy. So if you've got a Bible or a Chumash, find Ki Tetzei, Deuteronomy 22. And this parsha contains the greatest number of mitzvot, I think, of any parsha, and certainly a whole lot about the ethical behavior of living in community and in society, right? This is Moshe speaking to the people of Israel, giving them a charge for how they are to live in the land, knowing that he won't join them. So this is his charge on behalf of God to the laws that will govern a just society. And at the beginning of the parsha, we read, "Lo tira'eh et shor achicha, o et son nidachim vehitalamta mehem hashev teshivem le'achicha." Next time I will print this in a much larger font. My goodness, I need a new prescription. "If you see your fellow's ox or sheep gone astray, do not ignore it. You must take it back to your fellow. You must not remain indifferent. Lo tuchal lehitalem. You cannot remain indifferent. It literally means you may not hide yourself. If you see your fellow's ass or ox fallen on the road, do not ignore it. You must help him raise it." What is the other day, actually, Micah and I were on a bike ride, and he saw what he thought was an earbud on the floor, one of those AirPod things. So he picked it up, but it turned out it was just the earpiece of one that had cords on it, so it was broken. It was a piece of garbage, essentially, they found on the floor. And he said, "Well, what do I do with it? I can't, Well, in this case, it wasn't about returning lost property. Nobody was going to come looking for this. But now it's garbage, right? And you just picked it up. Do you have an ethical responsibility to do something with it now? I mean, you can't just leave garbage on the ground. It's one thing to just, bike by it, and it's another thing to pick it up. And the moment you pick it up, the moment you encounter it, you have an ethical obligation, because now it's in your possession. And if you throw it back on the ground, now you're littering, right? So then you have to take it with you and throw it away somewhere appropriate. Now that's not quite here, but the parsha also goes on to talk about lost property. The same principle applies, and to many things in this parsha. There are many moments here where it describes somebody encountering a situation that requires an ethical response. Also in this parsha, if you come across lost property, if you come across, what else do we have in here? Oh, the mother bird and her eggs, right? And you wish to take the eggs, you have to shoo away the mother bird. There are moments of recognition of seeing your fellow or having compassion for another. You cannot ignore it, says the parsha, right? Let's look at chapter 22 now, verse 8, a few verses down. Ki tivne bait chadash ve'asita ma'akel leganecha ve'lo tasim damim beveitrecha ki yipol hanofel mimenu. When you build a new house, you shall make a parapet. I think in the Torah, like in translations of the Torah, is the only place I've ever seen this word used. It's a little fence, right? A short kind of margin around it for your roof, so that you do not bring blood guilt on your house if anyone should fall from it. What's the ethical principle? What is this about? Just for context, it's still to this day in the Middle East, you'll find a lot of flat-top houses. It's a usable space in a house. It's where people hang out on hot days. It's where you dry your laundry. Might even be where you do some cooking and entertaining on your roof. So the roof is a part of the house that people actually go to. The rule is, if you build a house with a roof, then with a flat roof, you have to build a little fence around it. Why? Well, okay, so you're responsible for your guests. I think a lot of us take that as a given. But I don't know. Someone could just as well make the argument, user beware. Hey, I mean, it's a roof after all. Don't fall off the roof. Why do I have to go to the extra expense as the owner to build a fence around it if you're an idiot? Right? So, I mean, maybe we take that for granted, that if you build a house, you better build a fence around the roof. But I don't know that that's self-evident, right? Because, so what's the ethical underpinnings of this?
I would say it would take the blood off your hands.
Say again?
I would say it would take the blood off your hands. So
Oh, so if somebody fell off the roof nonetheless, then at least it's not on you, right? Okay, then they really are an idiot because you did have a fence, and reasonable person should not fall off of a roof that has a, or a balcony that has like a guardrail or whatever. Yeah.
What we have here in America, they have swimming pools, and there's rules that you have to have a fence around it so you don't go fall in. So it's
Right.
sort of the same thing, but not quite exactly, but the same principle.
Right. So you have an ethical responsibility to mitigate harm on your property. Now, and to take reasonable steps to do so. I mean, that you could go much further, too. The same thing applies, it'll say later, in interpretation of this, the same thing would apply to if you had a pit, right? If you have a pit, you have to put something around it or cover it. And the same would be true of any other dangerous situation. Let's look at, skip one down. This is Maimonides, 12th century philosopher, and also a physician, for whatever that's worth in the 12th century. Both the roof and any other object of potential danger, by which it is likely that a person could be fatally injured, require that the owner take action. Just as the Torah commands us to make a fence on the roof, and so too regarding any obstacle which would cause mortal danger. One, not just the owner, has a positive commandment to remove it. If one does not remove it but leaves those obstacles constituting potential danger, one transgresses a positive commandment and negates a negative commandment. Thou shalt not spill blood. So, the negative commandment is, don't cause the death of another. Don't spill blood. But he's arguing further that you have an affirmative act. You have to take affirmative, preemptive action to prevent harm, and that in itself constitutes a positive moral obligation.
Who's the one, not just the owner?
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
I'd have to look at the original one.
Well, I think what I was thinking about was that, like, if we see something dangerous while we're biking, right? Like, even if it's not our property, we should move it out of the way. It's not just the owner's responsibility, it's anyone who observes it.
Right. And so, excellent. I love it. Great. Yes. So anyone who is in a position to prevent harm, whether they are the ultimate responsible party, right? It's not just about, the owner, but anybody who can mitigate harm for others is obligated to do that.
You wouldn't be alluding even obliquely to governors and mask mandates.
Well, I don't know. I mean, yes, we could go that far. We could go into policymakers, I think, do hold even a different level of responsibility than even individual property owners. And that's a principle in our society, too. But then there's a balance between the individual and that policy level. But nonetheless, even let's just take it on the interpersonal level. How might these ethics... I do think there's nothing oblique about this. How do we apply these ethics to the moment in which we're living? Jewish law makes it very clear, and there have been recent papers written on this specifically addressing the pandemic, that if there's a way to mitigate harm, and it is reasonably safe to do, and it is reasonably effective, then you as an individual do have a moral obligation to participate in that, to do your part to do that, i.e. wear a mask, distance, get vaccinated. Are there risks with vaccination? Yes, there are risks with vaccination. It's an emergency use vaccine that was developed in a year, though it's based on decades of research. And nonetheless, it's been proven to be effective. It's been proven to be reasonable. The risk is reasonable, especially when compared to the risk that are brought by COVID, not just to the individual, but to the whole system and to the society. So then it's an ethical obligation on the individual to participate in that, right? I don't know what else there is to say about that, but yeah.
Well, just
Go ahead.
To what you were saying. I heard something on the news this morning that in Broward County, I heard on the news this morning, in Broward County and in another county in Florida, the schools are mandating masks.
Yes.
And the governor is going to withhold salaries because that goes against the
Yes.
state's anti-mandate.
It's interesting from people who generally have argued for local control and, you know, and so on. Yeah. That you would preemptively say that school districts can't impose mandates and penalize them it is outrageous. It is outrageous. Are there costs to masking and asking children to mask? It was really interesting. I just last night we had dinner with a pediatrician who pointed out that there are some real costs to children to wear masks. You know, my attitude was, look, it's a piece of cloth. What's the big deal? We have a preschool here, and our preschoolers are wearing masks a lot of the time, and they seem perfectly capable of doing it. It's actually surprising. They'll do it. If you ask them to do it, they'll do it, and they don't seem to mind it. Nonetheless, this pediatrician was saying that there is a cost to all of us, but especially to children in their development, not seeing people's mouths smiling, right? Not experiencing a kind of there's a lot of psychological research on how children mimic the facial expressions of others, how we all do, how that's an important part of development, emotional development, is being able to respond to the facial expressions of other people. Okay. So it's a cost. I mean, then you still have to ask, like, how long do you have to endure that? What are the, what ways can you mitigate those costs? How can you make up for it maybe later, right? I mean, a few months of masking compared to a lifetime of social interaction, I would think that could mitigate whatever loss there is in that. But the sense that cost has to be shared. And that's, I think, where a lot of my frustration is right now, is that it's precisely the people who are cooperating with those measures that have been mostly doing that all along. I mean, it's like we're the ones paying the cost for the choices that other people are making, and we're doing it on their behalf, right? We're doing it for their sake, because I don't wear, the mask doesn't protect you as much as it protects other people from you. So that's a particular, to my mind, that's a very frustrating aspect of this. We'll close with a couple of more texts that I wanted to share. Vayikra Rabba, this is a great one that my teacher Eddie Feinstein turned into a wonderful story. Oh, stop it. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai taught a parable. Men were on a ship. One of them took a drill and started drilling underneath him. The other said to him, there's a typo here. What are you sitting and doing? He replied, what do you care? Is this not underneath my area that I'm drilling? They said to him, but the water will rise and flood all of us in this ship. It's really that sense that we're all in the same boat. There's no such thing that, hey, this is my private space. I'm just drilling right here under my space. Like, it doesn't affect, of course it affects everyone. And we are all in the same boat.
You could say that about the masks.
Well, that's what I'm
This is
saying.
my hair right here.
Hey.
Don't bother me. You're over there. This is mine.
Right, or hey, if I don't want to get vaccinated, what's it to you? To which I would say, that's fine, you can make that choice, but you don't also get to make the choice of endangering other people. That's going back to our Torah portion. Okay, so individual actors will do stupid things. I mean, you could put a parapet around your roof and nonetheless, somebody decides to use it as a balance beam Okay, but you don't get to have it both ways, right? You don't get to say, I don't want to be vaccinated, and I want to participate fully and go into public places, and it's great. You don't want to be vaccinated, then, but you don't get to endanger other people. It's like the person on the parapet, on the roof, shoving other people near the railing.
It opens the door to a more expansive discussion of what traditional Jewish law saw as your private reshut, right? Your private space, your
Arba Amot. Yeah.
Your 4 cubits, right? But when you look at aerosols,
Right.
aerosols defy 4 cubits. It's a challenge. The current pandemic challenge. The challenge is the notion of what is private space.
Yeah.
What is.
Yeah, and I think we have to acknowledge that there's a challenge there. I mean, Judaism does not ignore the notion of the private and personal choice and so on. I mean, American law definitely has a stronger sense of individual liberty. I want to respect that, and I want to respect privacy, the individual, different reshuyot, different domains. But I think in large part we're talking about the public domain and the ways in which we all interact in that public domain. And when you live in a city in particular versus, and it's one thing to live in the countryside where the sense of public is also different just by virtue of density. But as soon as you step out of your front door in a city, you're impacting the commons in a very tangible way. Let's close with my teacher, Rabbi Bradley Shavit Artson. A religious Jew is not only one who is punctilious in performing the required rituals of our faith, but one who understands the safety of others as divine obligation. A religious Jew is called observant. Perhaps we need to open our eyes to observe the ways in which we can take better care of each other and assure each other's health and safety more completely. When we look out for each other, then our observance is something beautiful to behold. I would add to that our observance of ritual is part of training our minds to do that. So it's not one or the other, but it can't be one to the exclusion of other. You can't be, what Rabbi Artson is saying is you can't be a religious Jew in one realm and observant of ritual and not bring that into the world of observance more broadly. So with that, let's close our learning and we'll conclude our service too. I'll invite those here and at home to please rise as we conclude our learning. Well, we don't have a minyan, so maybe we won't conclude with Kaddish de Rabbanan. Yeah, I don't know. Can you really have a minyan from afar? I'm still wrestling with that one. So let's conclude then, as my teacher, Rabbi Dorf, would, with words from Ahava Rabbah, page 154. V'ha'er einenu b'toratecha, v'dabek libenu b'mitzvotecha, v'yached levavenu lehava u'liyira et shemecha, v'lo nevosh le'olam va'ed, ki b'shem kodshecha hagadol v'hanora batachnu, nagila v'nismecha v'shuatecha. We'll conclude the service now with the In Kelohenu, page 204. Hannah, would you lead us, or Micah and Hannah together?
Wait.
In
Kelohenu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkenu, en Kemoshienu, non come nuestro Señor, non come nuestro Señor, non come nuestro Rey, non come nuestro Salvador. Mi Elohenu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemalkenu, mi Kemoshienu, oremos a nuestro Señor. Quem como nuestro Señor, quem como nuestro Rey, quem como nuestro Salvador. No del Elohenu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Oremos a nuestro Señor, oremos a nuestro Señor, oremos a nuestro Rey, oremos a nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Nuestro Señor, bendicho nuestro Señor, bendicho nuestro Rey, bendicho nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Tu el nuestro Señor, tu el nuestro Señor, tu el nuestro Rey, tu el nuestro Salvador. Atahu shetiru avotenu lefanecha Torah Tassamim ayananai 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 ayananai.
Page 205, Aleinu, followed by Mourner's Kaddish. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שנשמעים יוסד ארץ. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. We invite mourners here and at home to remain standing. We send our condolences this week, along with many in our community, to the family of Shmuel Steinberg. Many of us heard about this week was killed tragically in an incident outside of Yeshivas Torah Chaim on the west side of Denver. It seems to have been an innocent bystander in a terrible crime, and we send our heartfelt condolences to him and to his community, along with all who are reciting Kaddish. Page 207. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba. Be'alma divra kirutei ve'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. B'agala v'zman kari ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'me'ol maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. I want to remind those of you here, and especially for those of you watching at home, that we are asking that you please must register to attend services for the High Holy Days. It is the best way that we can anticipate the number of people, given capacity limits and so on. So please register if you plan to attend in person, and please read carefully the guidance and requirements that we have put in place for in-person attendance. Of course, we will be live streaming High Holiday services as well, and we encourage people to make choices that they feel are healthy for them. Our name, as part of that, your ticket will also serve as a name tag. Those name tags will be available for pickup starting on Monday, the 23rd, and we also have machzorim available for those that wish to view from home. On the live stream, you are welcome to come by and check out a machzor. Please also be aware that we've got wonderful gatherings, safe, small gatherings, Elul in the shul. I've got some fun activities, and that's also an opportunity to pick up your high holiday materials for home.
One
And with
tomorrow.
that, check out, what's that?
For Elul on the Shul, there's one at 1 o'clock tomorrow and one at 2:30
Tomorrow at
tomorrow.
1 p.m. And at 2:30. I think you can still register online tomorrow morning, or just let us call and let us know you're coming. And Thursday, August 26th at 6:30 p.m. And check out headenver.org for upcoming programs and other information about high holidays. Let's conclude with a song. Anybody want to call something?
Sanctuary song.
What's that?
Sanctuary song.
Sanctuary song. I don't even have the words here, but I'll try my best.
Come on.
Let's close with Oseh Shalom. Oseh
Shalom bimromav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Na 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 Oseh shalom bimromav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen.
Yesh koach. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.